Welcome to this edition of Diligence Inside Europe's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, and I'll be your host for today's show. Today, we're going to talk about global governance perspectives and annual meeting observations. And joining me as a guest is Sandra Guerra, who's the founding partner with Better Governance, also author of many books, but most recently and most relevant, The Black Box of Governance, Board of Directors Revealed by Those Who Inhabit Them, which is a very interesting title. And Sandra has also served as a board member in public companies and the International Corporate Governance Network, and as no surprise at all, is an international governance expert. So welcome, Sandra.
Thank you so much, TK. It's a pleasure being here with you today and your audience.
So as I just finished telling our audience, you've been very active in leadership with international governance entities. And I mentioned your book, which dissects how boards have worked and how they could work. So probably a good place for us to start is, could you give us sort of a sneak peek into what the status quo could be in the boardroom?
Well, it's a pleasure to talk about the book that is coming out this August. In the world of corporate governance, the board of directors is often viewed as the black box. And that's why the title of the book. And why the black box? It's because only board members who are seated at the meeting table are able to understand how this decision machine actually works. I base the book is grounded in two different surveys. One of them with more than 100 Brazilian directors, and another one with 340 board members from different 40 countries. And I also base the book on interviews with many board of directors of different jurisdictions, learning from their experience. And I tell lots of cases of boards led by these directors. And of course, I don't mention their names because I'm mentioning the case, telling the cases. But on top of that, I interview icons of corporate governance like Ira Milstein, Sir Adrian Cadbury, Robert Monks, Mervyn King, and not talking about the ones who I mentioned as the architects of good governance, like Max Isaacson, Stephen David, and Michael Brano. So I explore the inner works of the board of directors and review what keep directors awake at night, the issues, the problems, the dilemmas that board directors face, the obstacle to efficient decision making, behavioral dynamics both within the board and in the interaction between the board and management, and pitfalls that arise from individual and group bias. And this one, TK, is the core element of the book. Inside the black box, looking inside the black box paves the way to understand that even the boards made up of the most competent, diligent, and committed directors can fail disastrously. And this behavioral approach also enables to demonstrate that boards and directors may be hijacked by cognitive biases to which all human beings, as we are vulnerable. These individual biases are added to those which are common to group dynamics. And let me give you only one example, the group thinking. It's a group biases, very common it can be very common in the boardrooms, particularly the ones who are not composed of diverse members. So these group dynamics biases would provide boards dysfunctional and deflecting from rationality. And this is the approach that challenges the view that we may have as human beings, that the behavior that is in the boardrooms is absolutely and exclusively guided by rationality. Would be a strong mistake departing from this concept. Even more when this behavior occurs in such, let's say, an august environment as a boardroom occupied by directors who are focused, capable, and doing their best. So the idea of the book is that this chamber may be august, the directors can be focused, capable, committed, but this does not guarantee that the rational effectiveness. And so the black box of governance, the book aims to show how this happens. But on top of that, the book responds to this challenging, this dilemma, providing a guide to behavioral tools that would enable directors and also executives to navigate the boardroom, improving the interaction among the board directors and boards and executive team, and also the efficiency of the decision-making process. So in a nutshell, the book ends, the last chapter ends with the behavioral compass for all the ones living or interacting with the black box.
I do know that it's that you are pre-selling it on Amazon, and it is available for pre-sale. And I'll be anxious to dig down deep into the book and sort of understand what you were driving at just then. So
you wait for the summer holidays because it will come out on August. So you will enjoy this on your summer vacation this year.
Okay, I'll do that. So another question while I had you that I wanted to ask you, I know you spent a little bit of time in sort of projecting into the annual meetings that are coming up for most companies across the globe. So when you had a chance to look into this, what did you sort of project that will come out of those meetings in the way of proposals and shareholder votes?
That's a good question. Well, first, let's take a step back and say that the against votes on resolution concerning remuneration and also election of board directors at the last AGM seasons should come as no surprise to companies. And there is no reason whatsoever that this year would be different, quite the contrary. I think that this attitude of investors follows an increasing institutional investors' demand for better environment, social, and governance (ESG) practices. And this became much more evident after the global financial crisis, and I would say that has been growing steadily since then. Back then, in the beginning, institutional investors were vocal, but more and more they became expressing their requisites on action. And I give you an example. BlackRock, for instance, the largest asset firm, registered a 32% increase, globally speaking, in the proportion of directors they voted against from 2018 to 2020. The same fund have voted against 1,200 directors on a range of governance and sustainability related issues. And on top of that, they oppose the re-election of more than 5,000 directors globally. So what are the concerns driving these against votes? Lack of director independence, lack of board diversity, a director overcommitment, the directors who are sitting in too many boards, and executive compensation misalignment with the long-term performance. So I would say that not only there is no reason to expect that investors will reduce their against votes on this coming AGM season, as it should be expected even more rigorous behavior. And I mentioned again a BlackRock statement, and I quote them: our expectations of boards and management are higher than even before. So, and this could not be different if we consider that it's being emphasized, all this behavior, in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic. And also, let me mention another thing, like the protests around racial equity issues related to diversity in the boardroom. So the attention to the S of social in ESG is becoming much more clear. Another indicator on the attention to such topics is Vanguard, the second largest asset management firm, and also again BlackRock, that are beginning to track gender, ethnic, and racial diversity of the companies they invest this year. Vanguard informed that they may vote against directors at companies where progress on diversity will fall short starting in 2021. But BlackRock will do the same thing, but it started in 2022. Another element and indicator, Hermes, Equity Ownership Services, will recommend voting against resolution at companies in 2021, where they judge that these companies are making insufficient on diversity and inclusion, insufficient progress. And why they do that? They understand that if a company's board is capable, diverse, and experienced, good results are more likely to follow. So the message here that, for our board of directors is the sooner the board practice active listening to investors, the better. So it's not only, when the season is coming near, but throughout the year to exercise this active listening, to understand, engaging with investors, to understand their perspective and plan the board work related to all these ESG topics.
Well, we certainly have learned, Sandra, that the institutional investors have realized that they can move the needle by withholding votes. We've certainly seen that in diversity. We're going to see the same thing with ESG and sustainability. And it's sort of a new paradigm for many of the boards. So
the climate change is a big topic on the screen. And I would say that boards more and more are paying attention to that because investors are putting a lot of attention on climate change.
Well, Sandra, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us. We appreciate the insights that you offer for governance across the globe. And I want to thank you for, again, taking the time to join us.
It's my pleasure, TK. Thank you.
And that will conclude this edition of Inside Europe's Boardrooms. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again soon when we take another look at a critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.